Welcome to Breaking the Chains. I am Bakita, and today I'm here with Miss Valerie. Valerie, I always have everyone to introduce themselves. Would you please give us a little introduction, let everybody know who we're talking to, and we can go from there.
Hey everybody, my name is technically it's Valeria, but everybody calls me Valerie. It
I'm
doesn't bother
sorry.
me. No, don't be, don't be. It's not a big deal. But it's Valeria Henderson. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, so it's Doctor Henderson.
Oh, Dr.
And I
Anderson. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
most people don't know. No, I never tell folks. It's not one of those things where I announce, but I think it could be important or relevant to this conversation.
Okay.
Because if you ask me, like, what do I do? This is partially how I support myself. So I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. I'm a mom of four, which is the most important title, I think, of me and about me. And yeah, I am currently in Ghana,
Wow.
and I'm happy to be here. Yes.
Cool. So I first want to say, Memawo Akwaba, say.
Oh, uh, nope.
So I say I welcome you.
Yes.
How you doing?
How are you? Yes, and I lost the
It's
what I was supposed to
okay.
say.
You can say,
Etisan?
you can say yeah, say.
Yeah, Etisan.
Uh, but anyway, I just wanted to kind of see if
Yes.
you picked up a little bit.
Listen,
I'm,
you got it.
I'm
Yeah.
still picking up. It's been so long. I won't even go into it. I'm
Oh
still trying
wow.
to pick it up. Yeah.
Well, it
Um,
was impressive.
you wrote a poem that I thought was freaking amazing, and I wanted to start with reading your poem. And it says, I'm ready to be assumed into the light, rejected by the dark. There's no falling. I'm sorry. There's no falling into the deep when my natural spirits float. The boulders chained to my leg keeps me descending, but I'm moving. Liberation is calling me. I hear you, ancestors. I hear you. I'm coming. The only mode of transportation necessary is the energy generated by me. The only action needed is to move. The only belief involved is in myself. The only truth required is that I am deserving. That sent chills up my spine when I read it.
Mhm.
I didn't see it the first time you posted it almost a year ago.
Yeah.
Um, what was it that made you decide
Yeah.
that you wanted to move to Ghana? And when did you decide?
Yeah. So what happened is, so it really goes back to my early childhood. So I was reared in a very pro black, pro woman environment, and I always was hyper aware of the system and how black people were being treated in the states. I'm from the South, so I experienced it. I understood it, and so one of the things that was imperative in my household is that we are successful. We engage in a successful way as a child. That's how I was reared,
Mhm.
and so um, I think I was provided the tools through circumstances on how to negotiate pro white environments, and as a result, I was able to attain my education and negotiate those environments pretty well. And even though I attained the education, I thought the education was going to provide me the freedom that I was looking for.
Mhm.
I was able to, create my own businesses, and I thought that was going to provide the freedom that I was looking for.
Yeah.
And honestly, while I was in the midst of these businesses, I started watching more YouTube, and I knew that I always wanted to come to Africa. I always knew. And I started looking at families on YouTube. There's this one that was native born.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, huh. And I noticed myself watching it over and over and over and over again. Like I probably watched one of their videos literally like 100 times. And at that time, that was the most prevalent family that was talking about their repatriation to Africa, right? And I watched other families, other things, but they were the most prevalent. And so that's when I knew Ghana. That's when I knew I wanted to come to Ghana. And watching their videos gave me a sense of freedom, even watching their videos that I wasn't getting from having attained the education, having attained the businesses, the self-employment. Like it wasn't there. And so watching those videos gave me that sense of freedom. And that's where I was like, oh, I'm visiting Ghana. Like I became determined to visit Ghana. And so I had this desire to visit Ghana for probably 4 years before I even came.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Wow, that's interesting. Although I've been following you, I obviously wouldn't know all of that. And I'm so intrigued by your story. It's really like it's got me all of the questions that I thought I had. Now I have even more questions.
Different. Yeah.
Yeah, or different questions. Um, Initially, you all came for 6 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and then you came back to America, and then you went back. Can you explain to us, like, why did you come for six? Why did you go to Ghana for 6 weeks? Why did you come back, and how did you end up going back?
Well, yeah. So I actually, the first time we came, we were going to come for 3 months because I wanted to get the feel, a feel of Ghana. And Ghana was really supposed to be like our gateway to Africa. Like I wanted to travel. I wanted to see what the world had to offer. So the first couple of weeks of us being here, I was like, this ain't it.
It's
Because
just real, man.
it's not, yeah, because I'd never been to a non-Western country, to be truthful. And so the culture shock of what I thought the world, what I knew about the world was not here, was not it. This, like, my own ignorance, like, was like coloring my whole view of what I thought Africa was going to be.
Yeah.
And then we were sick. We got traveler's sickness.
Oh,
And so we were sick for the first 11 days. And on the 11th day, I was like, if I'm not better within the next couple of days, we're done. Like we were going to go home.
right.
Well, it turns out that we were better. And once we were better, my eyes just kind of like opened up. And so within the next 4 weeks, I already knew that I was going to go home, and I was stopping whatever I was doing, and I was going to come back. So after those initial 11 days, on the 12th day, we were familiar with the food, more familiar with the food. We were not sick. And we saw the world. And within the 4 weeks, I was like, I don't need to be here much longer. I'm done. I'm going to go home, and I'm going to end my life in America.
Wow.
So that was it. It was just that quick.
This
So
thing,
we left early. Just that quick. Just that quick. Just that quick. And so we left early. And part of it was because of COVID. Part of it wasn't. It was I knew.
yeah,
So I changed my ticket, and we went back home, and then we got stuck there
yeah.
because of COVID. And no one saw that happening. Like I knew. I didn't see that happening.
You
I
couldn't see
thought we were
anything
going to be
that
coming back. Yeah, we were going to be coming back pretty quickly, and we would be here within the next couple of months, and
happened.
that didn't happen.
So on your way back, you all were in Dubai for a little while. How
Uh-huh.
long did you all stay in Dubai, and why?
Well, as soon as the borders opened, so we had a returning flight back to Ghana because I knew we were coming back. Like that was the thought. Um, but it didn't work out. That ticket didn't work out, so I actually had to buy another ticket. And one of the ways of getting into Ghana was that, or getting out of the States, just in case they close the borders back up, is Dubai was open to America. And
Oh,
at that time, the infection rate in America was so high. But Dubai was willing to accept us, and not very many countries were.
right,
So I thought, let me do some research on Dubai. Dubai looks like it's a pretty, like a place where we can have all the amenities to some degree.
mhm,
And also, they're only so many hours away from Africa. So even if we don't get to go into Ghana initially, we can make it to Ghana at some point. So we went to it was literally like a week after the States opened and Dubai opened. We were in Dubai, and we were gonna leave a couple of days before, but it didn't work out. So we were in Dubai within 7 days after they opened.
oh, okay,
And we stayed there for 2 months. Dubai had a visa process where they were extending the general visas to like people traveling in. Of course, economy. They're trying to boost their economy,
right,
so they weren't charging significant amounts for people to come in. And generally, visas in Dubai are very expensive.
right.
So, I mean, we stayed there for a couple of months, and it was fun. It was worth it. We got to come to Ghana, so.
Yeah, you guys look like the kids look like they were really enjoying Dubai. It made me want
Oh yeah.
you did too. Like you look like you enjoyed yourself
Uh-huh.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a little bit. I'm enjoying Ghana a lot more.
Oh, hey,
Yeah.
that's what's up. That's what's up.
Yeah. I
So
probably shouldn't compare, but yeah.
yeah, I feel you. I
Okay.
totally feel you.
Mm.
So you are a mother of 4 children. When you guys moved, they were four. You had 4 under 5,
Uh-huh.
right?
4 under 6.
Under
4 under
six,
6, yeah. Mm-hmm.
4 under 6, and you moved. Did you move with someone, or you moved
Mm-hmm.
by yourself with them?
Oh yeah, no. And let me just give you kudos. You really been doing your research, man. Like you've done a great job. Um yeah, so I didn't move with anyone. You know, I believe in I'm nervous. I was nervous for my children. I'm nervous for myself. And it's a huge leap to come to Ghana. But also to me, the risk of coming here was worth it for my children. Now, if my children, and I'll be honest, if we were not black, I would have. If I were white, I would have probably stayed in America. My
Absolutely,
children would be fine.
absolutely.
But the fear of how we were living in the United States, and me not being able to do simple things like send my child to school, and he still wanted to go to school,
Mhm.
um, was not possible there. And so had to seek out a different life for my children. And so being black in America is not always safe. And I didn't want to live like that for my kids. So um, I took the leap to come here without support, without being incredibly aware of the whole country and the environment, and not having the family connections
Yeah,
that I have in the States.
yeah,
Yeah, so,
yeah.
or the friends. Yeah.
So moving as a single parent, I know I've been asked a few times by women about the process of relocating children and the other parent isn't coming. So
Hmm.
was it difficult to get the other parent to agree? Was there any like paperwork or anything that you needed to have to travel with them? Like what did you have to do to make it okay for you to travel
Yeah.
with your 4 babies?
So my situation is a little different because there's no other parent. My children are solely mine.
Oh,
But generally, if there are two parent households, there is a lot of paperwork that's involved. So folks have to they have to fill out specific paperwork in order to get their passports for the kids at the post office, you have to fill out, I think, like it's called a D7 form in
Mhm.
order to get your kid's passport. Then you have to fill out a specific form for the visas to Ghana. That they get where the parent gives one parent gives the traveling parent permission to take the kids,
Right.
and then after you get that paperwork, you're free to go.
Right.
Yeah, you can just hop on a plane, buy a ticket.
Right. I know
Hmm.
I've seen a few ladies have some trouble getting consent. Um, but I think that it's worth fighting for when it comes to our children. Um,
Absolutely.
so I have three small children. Traveling
Hmm.
with children is tough. How did you pull off traveling with four small children?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I will tell you that we've always traveled.
Hmm.
I've traveled all like when my my second youngest was a couple of months old. Like we've traveled throughout the United States. We've traveled to Puerto Rico. We've traveled multiple times to Puerto Rico. So they were trained in the art of traveling very early on.
Early, yeah.
Yeah, very early on. So we go to other states because I'm from the South. So, but I live in Wisconsin. So we would go to Arkansas, which is like a 11-hour drive. It turns into like a couple of days with small kids, but
Mhm.
we have a whole regimen. And also, I like have a significant schedule and protocols for my kids that they're very familiar with, because
Okay.
that's how I keep order. Because I have four,
Yeah.
and so we have a whole process where they engage in the packing process with me. They have their little backpacks, they have their little treats, they have their own whatever that they pack into their backpack. And then I put things in there that I know that they need. So traveling with them is hard. It's true, right? But we have we have skills that we utilize. When it's time to go to the bathroom, everyone goes to the bathroom, right? You stand on this wall, you count, right? No one leaves the door if I'm going to the bathroom, and it's a whole process. So I also bring visual things. Like I have a phone. Actually, I have two phones, and
Mhm.
so one person can have a phone, the other person can have a phone, and then they partner up, or they have an iPad. So it's something that, like, I always have these multiple layers of visuals, multiple layers of things that will satisfy some part of them. um, and I think other than that, like, they're excited to do it. They're like, if you create the pattern or the protocol for them, they'll be excited to engage in the protocol, right?
Right.
um and so honestly, I don't have much trouble with traveling with them. I mean, they fuss just like kids do,
Yeah.
but they're entertained by the process. And if you find things to point out for them to be entertained about, like the plane,
Uh,
talking to the pilots,
yeah.
whatever, right? They enjoy the process. They enjoy it.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
So how long have you all been back in Ghana now?
So we've been here only for a couple of months.
Okay. So
Mhm.
in those couple of months, you're getting all settled in. How are the children adjusting to being there?
I am surprised that they adjusted well. So what happened, truthfully, is we had some people that worked with us before when we came. They were guides, and we just rehired them in a different capacity to help guide us and show us how things work here. And
Mhm.
I think that was good because they came here feeling like the second time that they had a connection.
Mhm.
And even without that, they were so happy to be in Ghana. The
Mhm.
way that they were treated here the first time by Ghanaians, the way that I felt, and I saw kids existing here so free, so safe.
Yeah.
Like they could play outside, and I'm not worried about anybody picking them up, right? Nobody's gonna take them. They
Right.
can walk the streets and be out of my eyesight,
Yep.
and other Ghanaians are watching them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I I think, to me, it's the adjustment um was so, like, seamless, and they are thriving here.
Yeah.
Thriving here.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
they started school recently, right?
Hmm. Yes.
How did you find the school, and how did that go? How did you go about that process?
So finding a school is very different. It's vastly different than what happens in the states. In the states, a kid is assigned to a school based on their zip code or where they reside. Right here, it's mostly what you can afford, what you're willing to drive to, and what you're looking for as far as education for your kids.
Right.
For me, because of Ghanaian traffic, is you could be in Ghanaian traffic for 2 or 3 hours,
Absolutely.
one way to someplace. I decided wherever they were going to go to school, it was going to be close to our house. And so we started looking at schools that are close to the house. And there are a lot of schools. There are schools with 2 or 3 schools within every mile,
Yeah.
So I think you just go look at a school, you talk to a person who's at the school, you talk maybe to a teacher, you find out what the curriculum is,
Hmm.
and then you choose, you pay your fees, and you go. So it's really quite easy, just depending on what you are looking for as a parent.
Hmm. So,
Yeah.
speaking of fees, could you give me like a roundabout? What is the range of the fees
Oh
for
yeah.
that you looked at?
Yeah. So there are schools, and then depending on what your value is, right? So if you want your child to go to an international school, if you want your children to be around non people of color, if you want them to be social, of forming connections, like I
Yeah.
guess could be potentially important connections in the future, I don't know, you can pay up to like 15,000 American dollars per semester,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
right? And it could be more. However, those were not things that I was interested in for my children. I'm
Right.
interested in like my children being engaged in the Ghanaian way.
Yes.
I want my children to learn tree ga, right? I want my
Exactly.
children to be around black folk, African
Absolutely.
people,
Absolutely.
unapologetically. I want them to see African people. I want them to eat African food.
Absolutely.
So what my value was is for them to be engaged in the African way.
Yeah.
That was my primary value. And what I understand is the African way is being education being paramount. So no matter what school you go to, if it's in the African way, right, whether they have a lot of resources or not, your child will learn.
Absolutely.
So I'm always thinking about like when. So I think about raising my children the way I understand the ancestors being. One of my idols is uh, he's a doctor of, and his name is escaping me. I don't know why. Probably my mind. Dr. John Hope. I think it's John Hendricks.
Hmm.
Uh, Listen, and I have a degree in history, and this is really one of my people. But
You
I remember when he was getting his doctorate degree in his one of his writings, he talked about like not being allowed in the white environments, but he was attending a white school, so he couldn't go to the library when the white folks were there. And he would have to take his books, read them by candlelight, right? And still, graduated at the top of his class, and they didn't want this black man, of course, to do this. He's long gone now, but the struggle that he had to go through, and that's to me the African way, right? Like you gonna get yours, God has ordained for you,
period.
whether you have resources or not, period. And that's what I want for my children,
Right.
right? So I went through that whole story to tell you that.
No, no, I think that's a great explanation. What I learned when we initially moved in 2014, I had my oldest daughter was 12 and my youngest daughter was 6 months. Um, it was interesting to me that by the time she was walking and able to talk a little bit, my husband was like, okay, it's time to put her in school. I'm like,
Yes.
who?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So she
Mm-hmm.
literally, and it remind you, one day you made a post about your small girl, And
Yes.
it reminded me of my small girl going to school. She had homework. She's like 2 years
Yes.
old and she had
Yes.
homework and
Yes.
she was learning all of these things. And
Mm-hmm.
it was like, whoa, homework at 2 years old? Are you serious?
Homework it too. Yeah. It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tasha. And then not just little homework, they have
Yes.
books of homeworks,
Real
right? And
homework.
I think it's so impressive that Tasha sits at the table. My baby's 2. She sits at the table with her brother who's 6, with her sister who's 5, her other brother who's 4. And they are all doing their homework. They
Yeah,
know the process. I think it's impressive. I
it
think it
is.
is, yes, I think it's exactly what I'm looking for.
It's quite impressive. I I enjoyed it the most, I think, because my baby was, she was eating at school. I didn't send her lunch. My big girl also, I didn't send her lunch. You eat at school,
Yes.
you're going to get in and learn
Yes.
this thing because they're typically more resilient than we are. They tend to
Yes.
adjust much easier than we do. So when my daughter at 12, she went to school. Next thing I know, her accent was changing and she was speaking
Oh.
free and God. And I was like, yeah, this is what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. So
Yeah.
when I saw your post the other day about the small girl and her homework, I was like, yeah, I remember that. It's pretty impressive. So how are they doing with language so far?
So, JJ is picking up my youngest boy. He's 4. He's picking up like it's going to be his language. I think JJ probably will. English will probably become his second language.
Mhm.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And I think that will be the case for Tasha too. So I don't speak Tree, but the teachers tell me that Tasha is speaking Tree.
Oh, good.
So if she's speaking Tree, I don't, she
Yeah.
speaks English to me, but she speaks Tree apparently at school.
Cool.
So
Mhm.
yes, so
Good.
and the older two, they're picking it up, but not as quickly. And of course, I would expect them to. I mean,
Right.
I think they have some hesitancy and fear. They're very proficient in English, right? And just kind of letting down those barriers and being willing and able to jump into um, learning tree. I think they will.
Yeah. So we've talked about the children and they're adjusting really well. How are you doing?
I think this second time around, I'm doing amazingly. I think, yeah, I don't think anyone could explain to me, honestly, how I would feel coming here and what I would feel. But, and I'm not going to start crying because I'm not that person. I will start crying. Uh,
It's okay because I'm that person. Like I'm a big bag of
I'm that
water.
person.
You see, I was
I'm
about to
that
cry
person.
reading your poem, so I was fighting it back.
I am that person. No, no one could explain to me really um the lies, cultural lies that have been ingrained in me to
Yeah.
believe that where I was and what I was doing was it
Yeah.
was the destiny, and to be here I have been awakened. I really have been awakened. Go sit on the pot. Go sit on the pot. I've been awakened to like the possibilities of life.
Mm-hmm.
And I can negotiate the American environment easily. I'm pretty successful at it.
Right.
Um, but the pain and the damage that it does while
Oh,
negotiating it, right? I don't feel that here. And I feel a healing here that happens. Um, you know, that where you can let go of so much pain and so much fear and you can just exist. Like we in the States, we are often worried about surviving versus living, right? And we're so afraid of so many things. Got to teach your kids about the police. Why should we have to teach our kids about the police, surviving the police? You got to teach your kids about racism in schools and how to survive. Well, I don't have to teach them that here. You
Yeah.
know, like the shit that I had to learn, I don't have to teach my kids that.
Yeah.
And to have that lifted off of my spirit, off of my soul, it leaves time to for me to understand my own world, right? To understand my own self,
Yeah.
to put into my children more of my happiness
Oh,
and more, you
yes.
know.
Yes.
So yeah, no one could have ever told me that that was possible. No one. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
you know,
apologize.
hearing you say that, um, it really validates a lot of things and feelings that I have. It's hard being here, especially after you live there for a while, and then you have to come back. Like if you're forced to come back here, it makes it so much more difficult being here.
Yeah,
Because I know that it's the heaviness and the stress of this place. It just makes it difficult to be the best mom that I can be. I can't be the best wife that I can be. Like it just makes it difficult to be the best me that I can be. And you know, I'm so happy for you that you're getting to experience life in a new way, you know, and not feeling that constant state of anger and rage is the only way that I can explain it. Because as James Baldwin said, to be black and relatively conscious in this country is to be in a constant state of rage. And that's not living. That you can't possibly be the best you that you can be for you and for your family if that is the way that we are um having
existing.
to exist
Yeah,
literally in survival mode all the time.
all the time.
And then you get to Ghana and it's just like this big deep sigh of relief,
So relieving.
you know. um
Yeah.
and hearing you talk about your children being able to be outside and you don't have to be all skittish, wondering is somebody going to snatch them. I can relate so much. Literally, when my children go outside here, I'm like looking out the window. I'm like, okay, y'all make sure y'all stay in the yard. Make sure you stay close by. Don't go too far. Like it's always just like in you have to wonder like what does that do to children to feel you
Mm-hmm.
so anxious all the
All
time.
the time.
And in Ghana, my baby girl, she was when she was 2, she's 7 now. Um, she would she figured out how to open the gate some kind of way.
Yeah.
And she would just I'm walking like I may be inside mopping or doing something, and I look around and she's gone,
It's
and
gone.
still in my mind, it's like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. And as I'm going out to look for her on the compound, somebody's coming at the gate, knocking on the gate with Calipo, because they call her Calipo in the neighborhood. Oh, I have Calipo here with me.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody just walking up, some random person I've never
Random person.
seen.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. It's
And
true.
you know, it's they knew my children in the neighborhood and did like they knew my children better than they knew me.
Yes.
And I just loved that. I loved
Me
that.
too.
Um,
It's
you
the
know,
value of children here. They value children.
Yeah.
It's an yeah. A random person will feed your baby. A random person, your baby's hurt. They will be like, "Baby, don't cry. Are you okay?" You know
Yes.
what I mean? Like, or they'll pick
Yes.
the baby up and cuddle and like
Just randomly.
random.
And you like, and it kind of catches you aback. Like,
Hmm.
wait a minute, what you doing with my baby? But then you have to remember, I'm not in
America.
America.
That's
Like,
it.
I'm not in America. So it's a lot of unlearning that we have to do.
A lot. Hmm.
Unlearning. So, how are you doing with making friends or building
Hmm.
family relationships or network? How's that working out for you?
So honestly, I think there's several things here. I think one of the biggest potential difficulties is making friendships that are just platonic, right?
Right,
With Ghanaians, it's if you're if you desire to stay among the repatriates, it's probably easier, right?
right,
That's not necessarily my desire.
right,
Um, I think there is a language barrier at times.
right,
And while Ghanaians are so friendly and willing to speak English to you, there's sometimes things that you get lost, right? Or like little social things, cultural things that you don't always understand,
right.
right? So I think I need to put a lot of work into making friends.
It's a lot.
Um, I will also say that we're in a development, which kind of, it has its pros and cons, meaning that there are more amenities, but then also when you're in a development, you get a lot more foreigners, right?
Right.
So you're among more people who are like you, which
Yeah.
is problematic.
It can.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, right. So I think that making friends has not been easiest, but I need to put the work in, and I also need to move out of the development.
Yeah. That's real.
Mhm.
That's like really real. My first neighborhood in Ghana was a I lived at McCarthy Hill, but I was surrounded by Ghanaians. Um,
Mhm.
it was it was so many children on our street. Like it was quite a typical Ghanaian neighborhood. Um, and I think that also I'm married to a Ghanaian, so that helped a lot.
Mhm.
Um, but still, it's hard to make those friendships because um, we most of our friends are people who we've been friends with for a long time.
Long time.
And it's the same thing with them. They've been friends with people for long times. And as an adult, it's already difficult to make new friends. Um,
Yes.
so doing that under the a new society, you're trying to learn so much, and it can be overwhelming at times. The the culture shock, the
Mm-hmm.
all of the little bitty things that
Mm-hmm.
common sense is only common to where you are.
You are.
Um,
That's true. That's it.
so it's so many little things, and it made me is making me think about language. How are you doing as far as the language goes?
So I will tell you, there are pros and cons of having people assist you, right? Because I have people who assist me in my everyday life here. Um, there's not much opportunity or requirement that I learn to speak Tree.
Right.
Now, will that change? Yes, it will change.
Absolutely.
I think at some point I'm gonna have to get a tutor because I'm
Yeah.
not married to a Ghanaian, and also I don't have a lot of interaction. You know what I mean?
Being married doesn't
So,
help me.
huh?
Being married hasn't helped me learn nothing. He speaks English to me.
Oh,
Girl,
oh, really?
we that's one of the biggest things we go back and forth about. I'm like, why aren't you speaking to us in Sisala or Tree? And he's like,
Oh,
I'm surrounded by Americans because he's like
oh,
everybody speaking English, so I just speak English. And I'm like,
Yeah.
but we want to learn. And he's like, listen, when you get to Ghana
Yeah.
and we're there for a much longer time, you'll get it. He's like,
You'll get it.
you'll get it.
That's what everyone says. Like they say it's easier to pick up than English. So I have my fingers crossed. And also English is a very unnecessarily complicated language.
It
So yeah. So
is.
I think in a couple of months
Yeah.
we'll see.
So
Yeah.
you mentioned that you live in a development
Hmm.
what in Ghana what they call it an estate.
Yes.
Yeah. So how did you go about finding your accommodations?
So what happened is I have a lot of Ghanaian repatriate friends or Ghanaian friends, and folks would often give me tips on there are search engines that you can go to or search websites like Juju,
Mm-hmm.
JIJI, and Tanaton.
Yeah.
And so I started looking on there, and I started contacting folks on there. Sometimes that can be a little difficult, but I also knew that the folks that I'd worked with before, they could also assist. So when I started getting recommendations from my repatriate friends or Ghanaian folks, I would call these places and I would ask people who had helped me before to potentially go look at some places. And one of my Facebook friends who actually owns a house here in the estate, she recommended this place and they came to look at it. They talked about the roads. There's roads here. And so, I thought that's a pretty big win. If it's next to stuff and it has roads and, roads are a big deal here, how
Yeah.
they are, like paved roads.
Yeah. What area do
So,
you live in?
we live next to the satellite. It's, Katunse.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to jump back to school because what I really want to give people a
Oh,
good idea
oh,
about
the
how
fees.
much, yeah, about how much
Yeah.
are the school fees.
Yeah, so on average, really, you can pay. So there are three. I think there are three sessions generally per year,
Mm-hmm.
and they're about 10 weeks apiece. Is that right? Three or four,
Yeah.
and you pay. I'm currently paying 400 Ghana per child, which
Okay.
is pretty expensive. But 400 Ghana is less than $80
Right.
um,
Week.
per 10 weeks. But
Yeah.
that doesn't include books, their school supplies, their eating. So if I were to combine all of that in transportation, but I take them to school myself, you may pay about 1,500 Ghana, which is about $300 for 10 weeks of education.
Okay. Per
Hmm.
child.
Per child.
Okay.
Hmm. And that's, yeah, 3 weeks, 10 weeks, $300, which
I,
seems like a lot, and it is definitely a lot. Ghanaians, the average Ghanaian cannot afford that, and so
right.
I don't want to be disrespectful.
Right.
Um, and when you coming from the States, it's for the most part education is free. You don't have to worry about those things.
Right.
But when you're coming from the States, school clothes money, could pay for this if you spend. Like I don't spend a lot on school clothes because
Right.
but a lot of people do.
But even if
And they get uniforms.
I'm sorry to cut you
No,
off.
that's okay.
I was just thinking about what you're saying. Like, even if you have to buy school uniforms here, the money that you would spend on school uniforms here, I think, would cover um, a 10-week session in Ghana. And
Mm-hmm.
and I say that because my oldest daughter, she wore uniforms in school, and my 7-year-old now wears well, we in COVID, before we went into COVID, she was wearing uniforms, and they can get to be a little pricey for a decent a uniform that's going to last, where the knees don't rub out and all of that stuff or whatever. Or even if you're having to replace them more often, it can get to cost about that much within a 10-week time. So I think you're right. And then if you have to buy school clothes
Mm-hmm.
or school lunch or whatever the case may be, it does add up. And then school supplies, and here we have to this teachers a whole list of stuff for you to buy for the classroom, so you end up spending even more. But I agree, it would be that is depending on the area you're in, that would be considered food there. And that's using schools too. So with your housing, do you mind letting us know like approximately how much you pay, like what size is your place, and about how much does it cost you?
Yeah, so we're in an estate, but we are in like a detached house. And the house has 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. It's one level, a kitchen, and a living room, and it is kind of like a self compound within the estate, right? So you have your own gate and etc. And it's pretty. I think it was pretty nice in comparison to. I think it's pretty nice, and it's the cost is $233 a month. But you pay like for a year in advance or 2 years. And they were willing to give me a 1 year contract because I had a plan on, I thought I was going to come to gun and be like, I'm going to build me a property within the first year. Right. It doesn't work that way. But
work that way. Please tell them.
Yeah, you come here you're going to do all kinds of stuff this first year. You get it. Yeah. Hopefully, if you're smart, you adjust quickly. Yes.
It never goes like you want it to.
It never does. You definitely have to be adaptable here. Yeah. And so the house cost me about $233 a month. I paid a whole year. And just to go down some of the utility bills, you have to pay your electrical yourself. So you have to get a little card, and generally it costs me. I spent a lot though, about 100 Ghana for like a week and a half, which is about $25 about for a week and a half of utilities. But I spend a lot. I use a lot of utilities. Like we have air conditioner, so I use a lot of air conditioner, not just the fans.
Yeah.
We also have I have like appliances like a refrigerator, things like that.
Yeah.
So, and then I plug up stuff. I got a lot of stuff I like to plug up. Got phones, iPads, things like that. So about $25 every week and a half. So just if you want to save for a month, it's $100, right, which would be about 500 Ghana. Then you don't pay for water here because the owner of the house pays for it. Okay. But you do pay for like a tank if you want to get a tank, and that can be about $500. And everybody should have a tank, like where you get like have excess water available for you. But you pay that for a one-time fee. So that's not included in the monthly fees. And then you don't pay for gas. You do have to pay for propane if you're using a heater, a gas, something that you use to cook. Right. And I just bought one of those because otherwise I was using an electric stove that, like little eyes that we plug up. And, those, I don't really know how long they last, but it cost me about $80 for the whole thing. And it's completely full. So
that's the
and we've had it for about a month. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
And we've had it for about a month. So, and it doesn't seem like it's going out.
Depending on how much you cook, the tall one for our family of then it was 5 of us. It usually lasted us like 3 months.
Oh wow! Okay.
Every day, I cook every day, a couple of times a day, and it lasted that long.
Then ours should last for years.
It should last you. If you don't get a leak, it should last you a good while. So yeah, I with prepaid, how are you adjusting to it took me a minute to adjust to prepaid. How are you adjusting to that?
I like order. So I have a plan. Every Monday I refill our card to like I go to we take the electricity card, we take it to the place where we refill it, and I
Mhm.
have it sitting here, and whatever is on the meter, like I don't refill it until and so every Monday I go and refill, right? Because I don't want to be without
I
lights.
know, right?
And I don't want to put like 200 Ghana, which is $40 on there at any given time. I just want to put 100 or 50 at a time.
Exactly. Because
Right. Don't know why.
yeah, we know that I've had times where I put like 100 Ghana on there and it's gone way too
Real
fast.
quick.
It's
And
like,
I don't, yeah.
how that
Yeah.
happened?
Exactly. And then you be looking at neighbors, right? But what
Yeah.
happened? Or it could just be a system failure, right?
Let me
So,
let me ask you this. Does it still do that thing where when I first moved, there was this when it was down to like 10 CDs, it'll go off and then
uh-uh.
you have to turn it back. You can turn it back on, and then but it lets you know that you're getting ready to run out, so you don't get a
No
warning
warning.
anymore.
No.
Whew.
Not on this one. There's no warning.
I promise you, I didn't. I had to learn that, and I would be there in the house, and I got
Mm-mm.
ACs running, and got all of this stuff
Mm-hmm.
running. It's the middle
Mm-hmm.
of the night, and cloop, cloop,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Mm-mm.
and then look out the window, and everybody lights on.
No. Yeah. No. Mm-mm. But but so like did you completely run out or was that just your warning?
It was my warning. It was
Okay,
my
that's good.
warning, and I didn't know. My husband was. He finally told. He's like, no, it's because I thought he was doing something special because he would go
Mm-hmm.
outside and come back and the lights would be on. And finally, one day I asked him, I'm like, well, how you get the lights to come back on so quick? And he's like, usually you get a warning beforehand. So knowing that they don't give a warning anymore,
Yeah.
that's,
Keep your order. Keep your
yeah, you
routine.
gotta keep things
Great
in
one.
order.
That's right.
But
Mm-hmm.
with your poly tank, um, a lot of these things we don't have to worry about here.
Mm-mm.
So, have you ever had the situation where you ran out of water?
Oh yeah, when we first came, so in the development in the estate here, what they do is they apparently turn off the waters every Friday, and I didn't know that. And then they come on, I think, sometime on the weekends. Well, the owner of the house, he had a tank outside, and so we were using water freely, and it's attached to the house. We didn't know that the tank goes off. Well, or that the water was going off in the estate. Well, this time the water didn't come on for like a week, and we were using his tank, and then the tank depleted. And so I was like, "Hey, what's going on with the water?" So we had to find out from a neighbor because we don't get the announcements from the landlord or whatever when they're going to talk to water.
Right.
We just don't. And the neighbor told us that the water had been out for like a week. Well, you do get a little bit concerned, but again, I'm adaptive. So I like turn to solutions. And at this time we didn't have a car. And then we didn't know about the houses that sell things here. Like it
Yeah.
was very early on. So there was walking. We called Uber uh, to get some water, and we went and got sachet water, bottled water, and we washed up with that stuff. Girl, we kept it moving.
I know that's right, honey.
Yeah. And so the longer you're here, the more that you recognize or you learn that there are other things you can do. Like places sell water, like
Yeah.
jugs and gallons of water. You just take your container and go buy you some water because
Yeah.
it happens.
And
Yeah.
you can buy a truck of water also.
Yes.
You can have
So
them bring you a truck of
you
water
water.
of your tank.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's relatively cheap to get your water your tank filled up, especially if you have a good road and they don't
Yeah.
have to come up hills and all of that stuff. Um,
And for us, it's about 80 Ghana to get it refilled, which is less than $20. It's about
yep.
$15 less. Yeah, and I actually bought I bought a second tank, not knowing that we can get tank water delivered. So these are things that if you, it, like if a person is in the know, then you can save a lot of money.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And I think the only other big expense that we have obviously is food, but internet is extremely expensive.
Yeah.
But extremely is relative, right? I use a lot because I work in the States, and then my kids and I stream a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't buy cable. Like I refuse to buy cable.
Right.
Uh or
I haven't
satellite.
had cable in probably 20 years.
Yeah. So I probably spent about $80, which is about 400 Ghana, on internet a month.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
that just comes with it. I know people who spend like $200 a month on internet. Yeah. Because they stream, they it's a lot of them. They stream, their business is completely online, and
Yeah. Oh, okay.
streaming from either the UK or streaming from the US, and depending on what area you're in, having good internet
Yes.
can just be costly. But
Yeah. That makes more sense. Yeah.
so when you look at your quality of life
Oh.
in Ghana, what is the most significant change that you see in yourself?
I'm happy. Like I again, one of I think the greatest things about me is that I'm adaptable, right? And I think I can find happiness in any situation. I can be happy most places, right? But I don't have to work at being happy here. I don't have to find, well, the best case scenario. I don't have to find, well, the gratitude and or try to find the gratitude in a situation. I don't have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I think the baseline here is happiness. I
Yeah.
think that's the baseline.
Yeah.
And I think that is vastly different than any other experience I've ever had in my life.
What you know, I know that Ghana feels good for a lot of us. Ghana ain't for everybody, but
Mm-hmm.
it is home for many of us. If there was one thing you could say that this kind of surprised me, I wasn't ready for that. What would that be?
Surprising. I think there's two things, and I don't know how to call it, because a part of it is like me seeing it from my own like American eyes. So I don't know. So I'm just gonna say what it is. Say
Right.
what it is,
Right.
and I'm not really. So there's sometimes to get things done, you have to pay folks extra to do that, right? So, or if you don't know what to do. But I think the most important thing for me, that's the hardest, is sometimes feeling like folks may take advantage of you because people may see you as an aburi
Yeah.
or a white,
Mm-hmm.
um, a foreigner.
Right.
And if you have a pan Africanist or a pro African like a spirit, right, in your belief that we're all here together, let's all benefit and work hard together, and let's create something for us as
Right.
Africans. Um, that's surprising,
It
but
is.
yeah, and I think it's hard. So, for example, one time we got a taxi, and the taxi drove us around for 4 hours, and he wanted me to pay him 400 Ghana, which is $100. Right? He did drive us around for 4 hours, but the issue that should have happened is we were telling him where we were going. We were going to the store, the mattress store, um, and we were coming back. He didn't have to go. Right? We should have negotiated that price beforehand.
Yeah.
Of course, we didn't know,
Right.
and so I ended up giving him 200 Ghana, which is a crazy amount of money.
Yeah.
$40, right?
A lot.
Um, for that time. And I say $40, $100, people may look at me like, oh, why is she whining? Right? That seems like so little money. Just, and I'm not whining. what I'm doing is I'm acknowledging that there was an attempt to attain something from me that was not earned.
Right.
Um and you may look at it like, oh, but it was 4 hours. But if you're thinking on American time, American money, then you're always going to be that person who um is being taken advantage of, and then you're going to be
Right.
hurt.
Right.
So when I came here, I understood that there was, like, even if I have 1,000 Ghana, that is not yours to have just because I'm in a bureau,
Mhm.
right? Like, that 1,000 Ghana can be used for me and you to build us something,
Right.
right? And so I think my spirit was really hurt when he tried to charge me 400 Ghana. And then the people that I was with, who are Ghanaian, was very upset, but they value peace. So they were just like, just give him 300.
Yeah.
Just give him. And I said, would you give him 300? No. But also, there's a value of peace here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for folks don't want to feel like they're creating strife. They don't want bad juju or whatever it's called, curses. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so all those things,
Yeah.
forget it.
Yeah. So, speaking of, the difficulties and in adjusting and feeling like you're being taken advantage of sometimes, um, and the money aspect of this thing. I know a lot of times we hear people who don't live in Ghana yet speak about we don't want to pay people, or it's like people don't understand that once you move into Ghana, you can't think in dollars anymore. You
Doesn't make sense to
have,
think in dollars. Yeah.
you have to stop converting everything from CDs into dollars. You got to look at
Uh-huh.
CDs like they dollars.
CDs. Yeah,
CDs
that's
are
right.
CDs, and
Uh-huh.
they spend like dollars to me. So
They
you can have 500 CDs and boom, it's gone, because things can get out of hand.
it's pricey.
Yeah,
Yeah. So one of the things that I did is I stopped thinking about them separately. I started thinking, oh, dollars is CDs. A CD is a dollar. That's how I started thinking
exactly.
about.
That's how I had to do.
Yeah, and so and I think people don't understand how expensive the repatriation process is. Like, people, I don't know what I just don't. Yeah, no one explained it to me, and I didn't understand it either. But when you give up your stuff in the States and you start traveling, or you decide to stay someplace for a while, you have to rebuild. Like, how do you think you're gonna
Settle
get
in.
around? Right, you know what I mean?
You got to get
Like,
settled
people,
in.
right? Like, people, like, how you think you didn't bring all your clothes, so what do you think how you think you got to buy clothes, right? You didn't bring your kids' toys or all of them, so what you going you know what I'm saying?
Right.
People don't think of those things, so, like, very small things, right? That they don't think about, like, you got a refrigerator. Well, when you rent a place, you don't get
Yeah,
refrigerators,
you got to buy it.
right? You gotta buy a refrigerator. It's you can't. So
And a
you
stove.
think, right? So people don't understand that process, and so you don't think about, oh, things are expensive here. It is easy, and I'm gonna be honest. It is easy to come here and spend $20,000 to
Easy.
repatriate.
Easy.
Easy. Easily. And so if you don't think with a mindset that you're trying to stay here, or you're trying to, stay on the continent and not have to return back to America, you need to plan as such, right?
Right.
And, people come here and they be balling, right? You be going out, you be drinking, you be buying for all your friends. Well, that's cool if you're not staying.
Right.
But that cannot be something you do long term.
Not sustainable.
Um, it's not sustainable. So you have to think about it like that. And I think So it's also good, and you negotiate with things, but you don't have to negotiate on everything, right? So I
Right.
don't negotiate when I go to the markets. I don't. Right? If I can buy a tin of tomatoes for like 15 Ghana, which is equivalent to $3,
Right.
okay, right? And there are like 10, 15 tomatoes in there. I'm not gonna negotiate with you on that,
Right.
right? Because I know you're trying to live. I know that I may have this extra, so I'm gonna, Now, if you try to charge me 30 Ghana, I know you own something.
Right.
Right, so I'm not gonna buy from you.
Right.
Right. But there are other things you do negotiate on, right? Like you can negotiate on your housing. You
Yeah.
can negotiate on like transportation,
Yeah.
right? Because if it costs you 80 Ghana to go like an hour from here, you're being charged too much. So you
Right.
negotiate. But you gotta know when you're what you're supposed to negotiate on, I think.
Right. And I think
Yeah.
negotiating is a skill that we also have to develop,
Develop.
because we're not used to negotiating on
No.
a regular basis. Like
Mm-hmm.
me personally, I'm not a negotiator. And um I just I'm not good at it. Like I'm that person who's like, okay, it's only like you said, okay, it's only 15 CDs. I know I could probably get it for 10 CDs, but I'm not about
Yeah.
to stand here and go back and forth with you about 5 CDs. So
Mm-hmm.
I will go ahead and pay those 5 CDs. But what I did was when I went into the market, I found a person like the people that I use
Yes.
regularly.
Yes.
And I know that they know I'm gonna
Uh-huh.
throw something. I know they're gonna throw me some food in there. They know I'm gonna throw you some
Yeah.
extra money in there.
Yes.
And they looked out for me. So I had
Yeah.
a whole little area where I got
Yeah.
my everything was right there in this
Yeah.
little spot, and all of these ladies looked out for me, and
Uh-huh.
and I looked out for them. So what I know the other day, I think I saw you post something about going into the store and shopping, and then
Oh yeah.
going into the market and shopping, and the difference in how much money you spend. Um,
Yeah.
can you tell us about the lesson that you learned?
Yeah. So I'm just gonna tell you the truth. When you first come, right? Like if you're not used to eating Ghanaian food, like your palate, like you go through a real like mourning process, right? Because
Right.
you're constantly looking for food that your comfort food that reminds you of home, right? And I love eating, and I'm just gonna tell you the truth. So and I also I should acknowledge that I was a junk food junkie before I came here.
Yeah.
I really was. Like we would eat out 2 to 3 times a day because I was always working, right? It's just the truth.
That's, that's
Yeah,
American
and the
life.
convenience of it. Yeah. And yeah, so having access to McDonald's and Burger King and all those things, right? You can get those things here. You
Right.
can. Um if you're willing to drive and pay for them. So you can go to Burger King, spend 40 American dollars easily here,
Easy.
which is 200 Ghana, right? And so when I first came, I was at Pizza Hut every other day. Right, I was at Kentucky Fried Chicken every other. I was. It was at the mall. Girl, please stop playing. Boop. Uh,
Hey, you call it. Hey, you just have to keep it real.
Look, it's just the truth. I was at the mall buying cheese, trying out all kinds of candies because I wanted to find that candy that gave me the candy out. Um, all those things you can find Burger King, all those things. Yeah, so I was spending a lot on those things. But once after a while, once you start developing your palate, like you don't have to go to the mall. I can go to the mall easily and spend 500 Ghana, which is $100.
Right.
And this is so ridiculous because all the Ghanaians will be looking at you like, what
Yeah.
you do? They
Yeah.
be
What
looking
you
at your
do?
pet,
Yeah.
your suitcase, your thing like,
Bucket.
what is
Your
he
best.
buying?
Like, what are you doing?
Because they know you're being ridiculous. You
Yeah.
don't go to the mall and buy groceries for
Yeah.
500 Ghana,
Yeah.
right? You can go to the local market and spend not even. You can buy your whole meal for maybe 15 Ghana, like a whole day's worth of food. For real talk. You want to make some gatumbre, which is like a fish green stew.
Green stew. Yeah.
Girl, listen,
And then
15
I
Ghana. You
love
can
cucumber.
right.
It's
I
so
love it. It's so good for you.
yeah.
It's one of my favorite dishes.
Mm-hmm.
So 15 Ghana, which is like $3. So what I would say is you're gonna have to learn. You should learn at some point that the mall and going to those places that you're familiar with isn't where it's at. Like if you come to leave behind some American stuff, leave behind the fast food.
Yeah,
Leave behind some of that.
absolutely.
Because since I've been here, like I don't know if you can see my face, but like I'm getting all my, you
In
can
the
see
net.
that I've lost.
Yeah,
You may not have, yeah.
yeah.
I've since I've been here, I know I've probably lost at least 50 pounds.
Mhm.
50 pounds. So,
Absolutely,
yeah, I'm
absolutely.
not mad at living healthier.
It's funny because in Ghana, or when I'm in West Africa, period, because I spent a year and a half of my life in Guinea. Um,
Wow. Yeah.
but when I'm there, literally the weight just fall off.
It falls off.
When I come back here, it jumped back on me like
Yep, I go.
like a
Mm-hmm.
cat. It jumped back on my back like. "Ah."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's really frustrating because it's interesting because even my oldest daughter, she was like, "Mama, don't even worry. When you go back to Ghana, you'll be right back to where you was before we left. It'll fall
Mm-hmm.
off so
It
easy,
does.
and you actually end up being able to do things like that you wouldn't normally do here, like just going for a
Mm-hmm.
stroll because you're
Mm-hmm.
happy. It's like, oh, I'm gonna just go take a walk, and it's not
Mm-hmm.
because you exercise, and you just want to go take a walk and get some,
In the world.
just be out getting some sun and
Uh-huh.
checking out the neighborhood and all of that stuff or whatever, going different
Mm-hmm.
places and seeing different things. It's just, to me, it's just a healthier lifestyle
It
all
is.
the way around.
It is. It is.
And
So fewer toxins. It just is.
yeah, it just is like you I know a lot of times people think that we make it seem like Ghana is just so much, is just all this and that and the third. Ghana has so many challenges.
It
So many
does.
challenges. But with all of those, I'll take all of those challenges over this place
Every day.
any day. Any
Any day.
any day.
It's
Any day
true.
walking. I'll take all of
It's
those
true.
challenges. And I was in Ghana during the time where we was having lights off like 24 hours at a time,
Wow.
sometimes
Mm.
days at a time. And it would get frustrating or whatever. And then when I would think about coming back here, I'll be like, oh hell no. Oh hell no. I'm
It
straight.
was still, yeah.
I'm straight. We
Yeah.
right here.
It's
Um,
true.
but I really want to thank you so much for this
Oh.
because we were able to go into things like people understanding like what actually living in Ghana is like. And if you could give any advice to future or prospective repatriates, what would you say to them?
So everyone always says that you're going to need patience here. Like everybody, like that's one of the first things that people say. I
Exercise
would tell
patience.
patience. Yeah. I would say honestly, and this is something I've been talking about. One of my skills is being adaptable.
Yeah.
If you come here knowing that you're going to do A, B, C, and D within this time frame, and it doesn't happen that way because again, you're used to what we like to call a microwave culture or a very linear culture,
Yeah.
and the world here doesn't work that way, right? You're not in the Western world, so you have to learn to be adaptable. Adaptable in that there's stuff that you don't know, and you will have to come here to learn. We are walking into other folks' culture, and it's our job to learn how to engage in their culture appropriately,
Right.
not try to change their culture.
Right.
Um, and I think that most people aren't able, and I haven't been here very long, right? So I really can't talk, right? It's not like I've been here for years,
You've
but
been
there are people who have, there are people who've been here for years, and then all of a sudden just can't take it anymore, or they're here for 3 weeks, right, and they can't take it, and so
right.
they go back home. And so I think those people, and I can't speak for those people who've been here for years, but the people who've been here for a very short amount of time, A part of it is that they weren't adaptable. They
Absolutely.
weren't willing to embrace the Ghanaian culture, and learn about Ghana.
Yeah.
So I will say you got to be adaptable here.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say you got to be able to turn on a dime.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a good point.
got to be flexible. You got to be willing
Yeah,
to see things a little different.
yeah,
Um, I think a lot of times people get to the continent and we do a lot of comparing.
yeah.
Um, and what I like to tell people is comparing those colonized nations to a nation that stole people and built its entire identity off of stolen people building the place to
Mhm,
compare is absolutely asinine.
mhm,
Cannot compare to the two places
mhm.
because doing so you're completely either you're negating the fact
Uh-huh.
that people work for free to build these places,
Mhm.
or in some ways are you insinuating that we need to do the same thing
Mhm.
in the continent
Yeah.
to get where
Uh-huh.
we got here, because the only way to move things as fast as things moved in this young nation, it would take stealing people, killing people, uh raping people, just doing the most horrendous and atrocious uh crimes against humanity that you could possibly think of. I don't even think that's in Black people to do. So we have to exercise patience, come, like you said, being adjustable, flexible, being able to turn on a dime. I totally agree with that. You have expressed some things that you've been able to express some things that I have been trying to express but haven't been able to find the words. Um, and I appreciate that. Um, one more thing that I want to ask you
Of
is,
course.
um, do you think there's anything that would make you come back to America?
I think one of the things that I think if Ghana kicks me out, but I still wouldn't come back to America. Um, uh, so to be truthful, I've gone through lots of scenarios in my head, like what would make me come back.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Short from it being a legal requirement or them coming to pick my black ass up, nah, I'm good. I'm good. No, no, seriously. Like I've even thought about, and this is things that I think about. Like if one of my family members passes, right,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not sure if I would risk it to
Yeah.
come back, and that's just the truth.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So, short of it being them coming to pick me up, nah, I'm good. I'm straight. Deuces.
Thank you
It's
so
true.
much, man. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me. I hope that you and your kids feel better soon.
Thank you.
Get you some more bitter tea,
Leaf juice.
bitter leaf juice. Get you some
I'm also drinking Sobolo right now,
get
so.
you some more sobolo. Get you some sobolo with some pepper.
Oh,
It'll
okay.
help.
Cleanse it out.
Well, with more ginger,
Okay.
that'll help flush it out. I absolutely love Sobolo. I haven't been able to. I've been afraid of bitter leaf juice.
Yeah.
I've had. I had my husband had me to take some kind of bitters, and it was so disgusting. Like I was almost throwing up, and I haven't been able to try anything with the
Mhm.
name bitter on it anymore.
Mhm.
I've been like, no,
It's the truth.
no.
It's scary. But with the bitter leaf juice, it's so weird because it's really bitter the first time, and you're like, "Oh!" But then after you keep drinking it, it leaves like a super sweetness in your esophagus.
That's
It like a lasting. It's really weird. So, but I'm beginning to enjoy it. So I'm gonna go ahead and chug me some later on today. Hopefully, get some of this stuff
some
out.
more. Also, I wanted to, you know, just let our audience know they see you. You have a little cough. I think you. I want to thank you for talking to me, even though you're not feeling all the way well. But it's Harmattan, and
Yeah.
for people out there to understand, Harmattan season is the dry season, and during the dry season is especially when you're not used to it.
Nobody told
it,
me.
it really can dry you out for one,
Uh
and
huh.
you can get eye infections from the dust. Harmattan is when the dust from the Sahara comes into West Africa, and it puts a big dusty cloud over the place for months. And
Oh.
sometimes that cloud even floats over and off into the Amazon, and
Mm.
it's one of um, the natural occurrences that happen in the world that helps to it actually feeds the Amazon. Once it flows over,
Oh.
it feeds the Amazon. So it then helps with the whole cycle of life on this planet.
Huh.
So it's a big part of, what something that we need, but it can be hard to deal with. So as you
Yeah.
heal,
Thank you.
um, I'll keep you lifted in spirit, and I appreciate you. You gotta take care of those babies. I hope they feel better also. And I look
Oh,
forward to talking to you. Hopefully I'll be in Ghana in the next, if Nana don't close the country down. Hopefully I'll be able to get in soon and we'll be able to link up.
okay. I look forward to it. I can't wait. And you were a great interviewer, so thank you. You really did your research. It was really good. It was amazing.
Yeah.
This is the best interview I've ever had. So,
Really, thank
yeah.
you so
Yeah.
much.
Good
I
job. Yeah.
appreciate you. You have a good rest of the day, okay?
Okay, be well. Bye bye.
Bye bye.